Hey, what do you know? And this is the Melvin Live Show, and this is episode 57. And we're going to be talking about how does knowing your business ecosystem actually give you a competitive advantage. That's right. Hey, this is Melvin here, and a good day to everyone. I hope everyone is having a good time. I'm having a good time, in fact, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining me at the show because I think it's a lot to think about the effort that you put into wanting to come and be part of this show. And so, I truly appreciate you joining me on this show. And what I would like to do today is a few things. Number one is I'd like to share with you the concept of how you are able to look at your business ecosystem and how is that going to give you an advantage, right? And so that's something that I would really like to give you a sense of things, because with that itself you will then have a better idea of what you can be looking at, and what are some of the things that you need to pay attention to, especially if you are a business owner, if you're someone who wants to take advantage of the fact that knowing your business ecosystem is going to be able to help you, then this is definitely the show for you. And so without further ado, let's get into the show itself. And so what I like to do is I like to share with you the slide deck that I've created. And in this slide deck that I've created, essentially I want to talk about how you can look at your business ecosystem. Now, before I go on to that, I just want to make sure that you all can hear me well and good. So, if the audio is coming across good, solid, clear, please give me a thumbs up. And also, please let me know in the comments so that I am able to adjust from there. And so, let's look at this aspect of the well, the presentation itself, because I really want to get into the part about how looking at the business ecosystem is going to be able to help you. And so first off, I like to always share a quote, and this is a quote by someone who I truly respect because he has been in the industry for a long time, and I've always been watching him in terms of his work. And I think every time he says something, I do tend to pay attention to him. And that's Brian Solis. And he said that this, I think, is somewhere back in the days of 2017 or 2018. He said that sharing among an entire ecosystem of innovative partners is now a crucial step to modernization. And I believe that to be true at the point in time. And I believe that to be even more true in our context here. And so, given our context right now, I think a lot of time when I speak to people who want to start their business, I think one of the key things that they always talked about is, I need to know who are my customers and all that. I think that's well and good. But before we get into that, what I like to do is really to share with you a little bit about this whole idea of ecosystem, right? So, what exactly is an ecosystem? Well, the two definition or two ways of looking at ecosystem. The first one is really to use a nature example, or to use the nature definition of what is an ecosystem. And so this is really, about a biological community of interacting organism and their physical environment. So what this truly tells us is that in an ecosystem, in the in the natural world, what we're talking about, what we're looking at are essentially different types of plants and animal and how they coexist. And because of their coexistence, this is how they are able to contribute to the entire planet itself, right? So that is one way of looking at an ecosystem. Now, another way of looking at ecosystem is to look at it from a network perspective. Now, when we talk about network perspective, essentially what we are looking at is, a complex network or an interconnected system. And I think this is specifically important. Let me just adjust. Yeah, I think this is really important to our definition here and what we're looking at here, because when we are looking at a business ecosystem, what we really like to do is to be able to say that, hey, what exactly does it entail and what is specifically are we looking at? So we're looking at a network of interconnected system. Now, what does that mean? So let's take an example, and I think this is something that many of us are familiar with, right? Apple devices didn't just become successful just because of the fact that they are aesthetically better looking than anybody else's. Of course, that it's one part of the equation, but really the key thing behind Apple's success is because of the ecosystem itself. Now, if you take a step back and look at the number of parties that goes into the ecosystem, I think you'd be pretty much amazed, because you would have people like, for example, the users like you and I, who are looking at using the devices and the apps that comes with it. For example, in my case, for a time I was truly deep in the Apple ecosystem, and so as a result of that, I tend to only buy apps that are from the Apple ecosystem. And that's kind of like, good and bad, because on the one hand, you are able to fully experience the interface and the whole ecosystem of the iOS, of iOS. So that's one aspect of it. But on the other hand, is that at any point in time, if you will be required to use another system, like for example, whether it's a Windows or Android or for that matter, Linux, for example, then what you really will be looking at is the fact that you will not be able to use some of these apps outside of the Apple ecosystem. And so, it takes an ecosystem to build a mobile device. Is truly not just about the end users. It's also about the developers. And arguably, it is the developers that truly make the Apple 3GS, right? The iPhone 3GS flourish and really took it to the next level, and to be able to beat the competitors at it. Right, and so that's one key aspect of things that we sometimes we may not understand, we may not appreciate, but the fact is that it is there, right? Another ecosystem that I like to share with you is the Facebook ecosystem. And Facebook, I know that there are many people who have actually built their businesses on Facebook or even Instagram, for example. In other words, they are leveraging that very platform itself to build their business, to build their presence, and to transact with their customers all through that ecosystem itself. And while I must agree that Facebook has provided a almost seamless user experience when it comes to shopping, when it comes to buying from that ecosystem itself, That said, what's really, really dangerous is that if you are building off Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or any platform, for example, what's really scary is that someday you may be banned, or someday that app may be banned. Like, for example, in the case of TikTok was just banned in India, and there are even talks about having TikTok banned in the US or other places. And if that really, really happens, what that's going to mean is that you are going to be shut out of that entire market altogether. And is that something that you would want to do? I guess not, right? I mean, it's just not safe. It's just not a sound business practice itself. And so, in this case here, really, it's if you look at this ecosystem, this framework itself, what it's saying is that you start building your presence in the ecosystem itself. You start posting regularly on your Facebook page, on your Facebook profile, and then you go on to interact with your potential customers via messaging, and you even use Facebook Live, right, like these days, to better engage with your customers, perhaps to even do like a webinar for a closed group within the Facebook group itself, right? You use Facebook Live, and then from there, you kind of use that as a platform to get people to buy your services or to attend your classes or whatever the case may be. And so this truly, it's the way that we have been looking at, and the folks at Copy Blogger says that this is basically what you call digital sharecropping, meaning you are building your business on somebody else's land, and that could really lead to disaster, and that's something that you really not want to do. Now, enough of that. Let's now talk about your ecosystem, right? And your ecosystem itself, I think the first thing first, what I like to do is talk about you. Because you are the main business, you are the main reason why you started this business. And you want to go on to look at what are some of the things what you can put in place in terms of your business. So when you start looking at you as a business, the next logical step that most people would do is that they will start looking at who is within that ecosystem. And they may not call it ecosystem, but they are looking at who are my customers, who are my suppliers, and who are my partners, for example. So naturally, the first group of people that you will look at will be your customers. And in the larger sense of things, we are calling that the market, because it's not just your customers, but you're also looking at your competitors. And you are also looking at people who right now may not be your customers, but they could become prospective future customers for you. And so the entire term that encapsulates this would be called the market. So that's one big aspect of it. And you need to identify the different type of customers. You need to be able to identify like people who would consume or who would purchase from you in the next 2 weeks, or in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, in the next 3 years, for example. And you have to put that into perspective. You have to know who are these people. You also have to know who are your competitors, because these are the people who are going to give you a run for your money, or these are the people that you want to be able to beat and to stand out from them. You want to be able to differentiate yourself from them, and those are your competitors. So that is the market. And then, of course, the next group of people that you would want to look at would be, what I call the partners. And the partners essentially these are the group of people, for example, they are the ones that are your suppliers, they are your logistic partners, for example. They are they could be the subcontractors for you. So these are the different groups of people that work with you to provide that final solution or the final value for your customer, right? So So think of this group of people are the people who need to put your value chain together so that you are able to fulfill the orders of your customers itself. So these are the partners, right? And I think many of us think of these two groups, and pretty much that's about it that most people would think of. Now the third group, and this is arguably very important because these are the group of people who are either your investors, your advisors, your mentors. They could also be, your business partners, for example. So these are the group of people who are your stakeholders, and you need, of course, to pay attention to them because they have some kind of expectations, or they may be able to help you achieve your goals in such a way that you might not otherwise be able to do it on your own. And so, stakeholders is another key group of that is part of your business ecosystem that you need to pay attention to. Now, there's a fourth one, and this fourth group, or this fourth element, if I may call it, this fourth element is something that many people missed out, and many people do not even think about it until much later down the road, myself included. So, for instance, when I first started my consulting practice, I've always saw it as a business. However, somewhere along the way, when I tried to expand, I ran into a few problems. I ran into a problem whereby I wasn't able to replicate myself, and I was hitting the wall very quickly because very soon I was not able to scale because of the fact that I'm limited by time, or I'm limited by money. And as a result of that, that has prevented me from going from 6 figures to 7 figures. And I struggled pretty hard during that point in time because I was not able to scale, and I was just working myself to the ground until there was one point in time where I was really quite depressed about the whole situation. And as a result of that, I was just totally not interested in the business anymore. And that led to a lot of problem for me, truly. And so this is the last element that I think many people like myself and like many of you have experienced, but you may not know where the issue is. And the issue that I'm talking about actually is what I call business systems. Now, business systems are basically a set of processes that you put in place to make sure that your business runs like clockwork. Now, bearing in mind that a business is something that needs to be predictable. If what you have as a business is something that you wake up one day and suddenly there are lots of orders coming in, and you wake up another day and it's crickets, and then it goes up and down, it goes up and down, it's not predictable, then arguably that's not a business. That's more like gambling, and that's actually quite dangerous. So for the longest time, I have been building and very much obsessed with a business systems itself. And over time, of course, I've put in place many business systems for my clients as well as myself. And right now, I'm sort of enjoying the fruit of the labor, and that's what I'm sharing with you. So when it comes to the business system, I think one of the key things that you really need to think of is the following. And that really is about knowing what you're doing, because if you are not able to describe what you're doing as a process, then I think it's quite dangerous, right? It's pretty dangerous. So What I'd like you to think of is the following, and these are the few things that I'd like you to look at. So the first one is, with all businesses, whether it's new or it's seasoned, you must have your nose on the ground, sniffing out what are the main problems that your customers have. Now, here I know some of you are saying that, well, I prefer to use the word challenge and not problems. Well and good. However, you like to pay attention to the fact that when you use the word challenge, it could be something of a problem or a desire that the person might have. And so it's akin to looking at whether the person right now have a throbbing headache or whether the person just wants to be healthier. So is that person going for a painkiller or is that person going for a supplement? And at any point in time, if you feel that this person is not going for a painkiller, I think it's going to be quite strenuous on us as a one person business to really look at the desire point of view. And so when I say problem, I mean that there is some level of urgency, because without urgency and without the desire itself, the strong desire itself, people are not going to buy. So with any business that we run, we almost always must have a way to sniff out what are the problems that our customers are facing. And sometimes it is obvious because you have existing customers who would tell you what exactly are the problems. But in other times, that may not be the case because they may not know what exactly are their problems. And so you would need to ask them a series of questions. You may even need to talk to them and to guide them before you can find out what exactly is their problem. All right. So the first one really is knowing what's their problem. And one of the ways that I have been doing, because I have the luxury of having conduct courses, seminars, coaching for hundreds of people in a month. And so I'm in that position where I am able to ask people to fill out this questionnaire. And I'm able to ask them, like, what is that single greatest challenge that is facing you in your business right now? I need to know that. Right. And of course, sometimes you get brilliant answers, you get really, really good insights from the very people that you want to work with. And sometimes people just tell you to buzz off. And that's a fact of life. So, do not take it personally. Sometimes perhaps these people are just not comfortable with you. And so that's why they are not revealing to you. And so for me, every time when I get the chance to speak with someone, I would always send them to this Airtable form. And this is where I ask them to fill out, like, share with me, what is that single greatest challenge that you're facing right now in your life and in your business. And over the years, I have collected tons and tons of these questions, variations of these questions. And it has allowed me to better understand what the audience are thinking. And so this is something that I would say I really value, because nothing like having this group of people telling you what are their concerns. And sometimes, yes, sometimes it may not be so obvious that they may not know exactly what is their problem. Um, but with a little bit of probing, most times you would be able to get to the crux of it. All right. So the first one is you must have a system to get people to tell you what are their problems. So that's business system number one. Business system number two is that I then need to know who are these people. Who are these people that have this problem? And this is where I go into various social media platforms to connect with people and to find out if they fall under a certain category. So, for instance, in the last couple of months, I have realized that there are people who want to teach online, but they either do not know what to teach, how to teach, or if people would buy their online courses. Or, of course, you have a large group of people who would say that I do not think I am good enough to teach other people. And so all these are great insights for me. And these are the things that I truly want to know. So you must have a system to identify who are these people, because it will also tell you whether if this whole adventure of yours, this whole quest of yours is going to be profitable. And when we say profitable, one of the ways is really to look at search volume, as I talked about yesterday. And the key idea behind that really is, with this, it tells you the consistency and the possibility that you are able to get a steady stream of people coming into your website, right? Since we are talking about all things digital. And so you must have a system to determine if it's profitable, and how do you determine that? And of course, finally, you must have a system to very quickly put up a prototype or a minimum viable product to test and to show it off to people, and to say that, hey, this is something that I've put together, and let's see how far we can go with that. And so an example here is, after I've spoken to all these people, one of the key things that I learned is that people struggle when it comes to looking at business systems. And so that's why I wanted to have a way to bring in my knowledge and my expertise and my experience in business systems, and to be able to share it with them. Because I believe that until I share with people, you know, it's that there is no better way to do that. And so that's why I created a very simple process, a very simple system to validate that. And that is what I did. Was I created a 4-part audio course, which I'll get to it in a minute, right? So these are the 4 business systems that you must have, in order for you to really be able to put things together and to help your business to be sustainable. And trust me, if you have these business systems in place, you would definitely have that competitive edge over your competitors, right? So these are the 4 systems that you must have. And so the system that I've created, that's very, very simple system, it's what I call Build Your Flywheel, right? And I have done this by creating a 4-part audio course. And in this 4-part audio course, basically what I do is I share with you the core principles behind what you need to do in the new normal. And so these are absolutely my own analysis and my own insights that I've gained from talking to people, from reading articles, from observing what's going on. So I have a framework that I use, which I call Think. And so when we talk about Think, T stands for trends. I would look at what are the trends that is going on, and what is showing me, right? What is showing me? What are people doing, for example? That's the trend. And then on H is happenings. What are we doing internally? within our own business, within our partners, within our ecosystem itself, or what's happening, what are people responses, for example. And then I is the impact. What is the impact that will have with some of these new things that are happening, that these trends are happening. We need to know that. And it's navigate. We must be able to learn how to navigate through the ways. We must learn how to navigate within this VUCA world, and we must learn how to navigate so that we are always on top of things and not be reactive to whatever is happening. And K, of course, is what I call the KISS framework, and that is what I'm going to keep doing, what is working, what I'm going to keep doing, what I'm going to improve on, because there's always a possibility for improvement. What I'm going to improve on, what I'm going to start. There could be new things that I want to start, and what are some of the things that I want to stop doing, right? And so this is the way I think, and from there, that's how I came up with this Build Your Flywheel 4-part mini course. So if you want to build your own systems, you want to have that system that helps you reduce friction between you and your customer, reduce friction between you and your partners, reduce friction between you and your stakeholders, then check out Build Your Flywheel, because this 4-part mini audio course is going to show you what are some of the things that you must do so that you are able to thrive in this new normal. All right. And so, as always, let me know if you have got questions to what we have been sharing. If there is something that you like to know more of, if there is something else that you like to see on the show that I have not covered, anything that is related to one person, 1 million, and all things digital, if that's what you are interested in, if that's what you are looking at, feel free to drop me a message, leave me a comment, let me know, and I'll be more than glad to cover some of this topic. All right. And so with that, I thank you so much for watching. And this is Melvin in the Melvin Live Show. And have a good one. Bye-bye.